Greetings and a warm welcome. Our focal point for today is the carbon cycle, an intricate gaseous process. The atmosphere houses a significant amount of carbon. Carbon dioxide is also extensively dissolving in vast water bodies. Let's understand the cycle. Let us understand some of the important points about carbon in the ecosystem. Carbon is the main building block or constituent of all organic compounds or all organisms. Carbon in its gaseous form is present in the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is dissolved in water to form carbonic acid. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is fixed by terrestrial green plants and algae and converted into carbohydrates by photosynthesis. Some carbohydrates are stored as fats and polysaccharides. The stored products are then eaten by consumers. Carbon dioxide is added directly to the atmosphere by organisms during respiration. Part of the organic carbon was accumulated as fossil fuels. Example: coal, gas, and petroleum, limestone, and coral. The carbon of fossil fuels is released as carbon dioxide through industrial and agricultural processes. Decomposers break down the dead organisms and return the carbon in their bodies and to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide by respiration. The carbon cycle describes the movement of carbon through the Earth's various reservoirs, including the atmosphere, oceans, and terrestrial ecosystems. The carbon atom is the principal building block of many kinds of molecules which make up living organisms. With its ability to form complex molecules such as DNA and proteins, carbon makes life on Earth possible. Plants and other autotrophic organisms, such as algae and some bacteria, use photosynthesis to convert carbon dioxide into organic carbon compounds like glucose, which becomes part of their tissues. Organisms, including plants, animals, and decomposers, release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere through respiration. Carbon can be released into the atmosphere through the burning of fossil fuels, example, coal, oil, and natural gas, for energy production, industrial processes, and transportation. Over long periods, some carbon is naturally isolated in the geosphere, through processes like sedimentation, and the formation of fossil fuels. Carbon dioxide is also released when some carbon compounds are decomposed by microorganisms. Thus, the carbon dioxide cycle is maintained by the processes of photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and fuel burning. Now, let us explain the carbon cycle with the help of a diagram. For the sake of understanding, I am representing the terrestrial and the aquatic ecosystems with some of the biotic and abiotic elements of the ecosystem. The food chain links are shown by some producers, herbivores, and carnivores in both land and water. Atmosphere is one of the major reservoirs of carbon where it is present as carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is converted to organic carbon by the photoautotrophs during photosynthesis both on land and in water. Large quantities of carbon dioxide are dissolved in the water. The food carbohydrates or the organic carbon produced by producers are transferred to higher trophic levels in the food chain. Carbon is released into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide from the respiration of all organisms on land as well as in water. Burning of wood and fossil fuel in industries, homes, or in transportation releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The source of fossil fuels is organisms that were buried a considerable time in the past. The dead organic matter is decomposed by the soil organisms. The decomposition and sedimentation also take place in the ocean and any aquatic environment. During the decomposition process and the respiration of microorganism, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. From an examination point of view, you need not draw a very complex diagram to explain the carbon cycle. You can draw a simple diagram to explain the flow or cycling of carbon in the ecosystem. Atmospheric carbon dioxide is fixed by the producers and the food is transferred in the food chain at the respective trophic level. The organisms release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere during respiration. The dead bodies of organisms are decomposed by the microorganisms and carbon dioxide is released. Microbial respiration also releases carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide dissolves in seawater to form carbonic acid, which converts carbonates into bicarbonates, which are dissociated during photosynthesis to precipitate carbonates. Seawater is alkaline and rich in calcium and accelerates carbonate deposition. The origin of fossil fuels is organic matter. The burning of wood and fossil fuel release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. This is a more simplified diagram to explain the carbon cycle. All major steps of carbon movement in the ecosystem are shown here. You can practice drawing such a diagram to memorize the main steps of cycling. What we have learned today. Today we have learned that there are 5 major steps in the carbon cycle. Number 1 is the entry of carbon into the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. Number 2 is the absorption of carbon dioxide by producers in the photosynthetic process. Number 3 is the flow of carbon compounds in the food chain. Number 4 is the return of carbon to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide through respiration and combustion of fuel. And finally, some of the carbon that is not released back into the atmosphere become fossil fuel or is deposited as sediment in the form of rocks like limestones. Our next video will cover the nitrogen cycle.